Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me today. It's Allan Laboucan with the Rocks and Stocks News Show. I've got one of our constant guests, and Ewan Downey from I80 Gold on today. The reason that I80 Gold is a constant guest, one is they're a sponsor of the show, but the main reason is that they're always putting out great news. And this is a company that I think is growing into a much bigger company. Ewan, thanks a lot for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me on again, Alan. Hopefully I'll see you again before Christmas.
Yeah, that sounds like a good plan. Well, today you put out from just the world-class project at Ruby Hill. Gold I80 Gold expands high-grade mineralization in the Blackjack zone at Ruby Hill. 10% zinc, 0.3 grams of gold, 37 grams of silver, some lead, over 116 meters, 16% zinc, 0.5 grams of gold, 12.4 grams of silver, over 16.1 meters. Really impressive stuff. And that just keeps coming out of Ruby Hill.
Yeah, Ruby Hill is, I think I've said in the show before, it's just an amazing project. And recall the first year that we owned it, all of the news that was coming out of it was from the 426 and Ruby Deep zones. Those are Carlin type refractory gold mineralized horizons that we were drilling mainly to have a third deposit to facilitate the startup of our autoclave. And once we finished the first phase of that drilling, there's more drilling to be done because if you recall, we discovered the 428 zone late last year with 12.6 or 12.7 grams over more than 10 meters in a new horizon. And we haven't even followed that up yet. So the gold potential is still really front and center at Ruby Hill, but with the discovery of the Hilltop zone, that I believe is going to end up being one of the highest grade polymetallic deposits mined anywhere in the world. And when you combine that with the Blackjack skarn zones, there's significant mineralization over a large area. And it's pretty easy because you drill a base metal deposit and you've got a gold deposit right beside it. So we could have 10 drills going there right now, but as you know, it's been a challenging year and a half for the mining sector, and we've been doing our best to sort of regulate our balance sheet and not just spend it all on drilling in 2 months. So
You know, that
resisting.
what blows me away about that project is I looked at your corporate presentation and you have a model of the underground workings. And when you say beside, it's literally beside. There's one here, the Carlin stuff is here. Right beside it is the CRD. Right beside it is the Skarn. And you can get at all of that with the underground workings. So not just the grade, but the ability to get to it all, and the diversity that gives you in scheduling things is tremendous.
Yeah, certainly that's our view is it'll be a very unique operation having both base metals and gold. And as we're permitting right now, we're permitting to have three declines, one to access Hilltop and the other to access Blackjack and the gold deposits. So we're really setting up some building in to build in some flexibility on our development. And recall that we just put out a news release about the plans to bring in a joint venture partner. And it's because of the polymetallics and the zinc and the lead that we were drilling that we actually had significant interest. A lot of companies phoning one to look at what we're doing. And we had several look at it in quite a bit of detail. And I just say we had more than one who wanted to do a transaction with us. And we chose one that we believed was right for the company because it's a deal that once it closes, of course it has to close first, but we will be the operator and the majority owner, and that was pretty important. Most partners who come in, especially the big guys, they want control and operatorship, and we just felt that the partner that we expect to be working with, some of the drilling we're doing right now is being funded by them. is really one that's really accretive for our shareholders and really accretive for us as a company. So we went ahead with that. And this drilling, I'm sure, just makes them happier because this deep part of the Blackjack zone is completely open to the south. These intercepts that we released today, and when you couple that with hole 18 from this year's program, we hit 19.5% zinc over more than 30 meters, are some of the southmost drilling to date. So it's completely open. And as we speak, 300 meters to the south along the same intrusive contact, we're currently drilling the East Hilltop discovery. And it's quite possible that East Hilltop and Blackjack will eventually mold together. So one or two of our holes here at the end of the year are actually being step outs towards Blackjack in East Hilltop. And we were going to drill another hole at Blackjack, but just time, drillers are starting to get ready to go on holidays for Christmas in the next week or so. So we're finishing the holes we're on and then get started again early next year. But it's really exciting results all year, Al. And then we're getting great results at Cove and we're getting great results at Granite Creek. So it's been a trifecta in some ways. And despite that, we've had a very challenging year in the market.
Well, you brought up some interesting stuff there, Ewan. So you don't have a deal yet. You're working on it, and that company is already spending money on your project.
Yeah, it's mainly for metallurgical purposes. So we've been doing metallurgy on the polymetallic zones, the skarn-based metal, actually doing metallurgy now on FAD that we acquired earlier this year. Looking at it at, what are the recoveries going to be like? What do we have to do if we're going to start up the plant at Ruby Hill? And I just say that our metallurgy, for the most part, has been really positive. However, the incoming party just wants to do their own metallurgical work to see if it jives with what we've done. And if so, then it should be compatible with some of their infrastructure. And then we go ahead. But definitive documents are already being worked on, and we're pretty confident this is going to be something that'll be closed. The lawyers are there now, so it'll be several months of back and forth. But when that's done, we expect to move forward. And with this deal, part of it is a major increase in exploration in 2024 on the property. So there would be a pretty big bump, and some of that would be allotted entirely to gold. So probably see us working both gold and base metals in the new year once this closes.
Well, you and I think it's important that, if certain people put out that kind of a news release, it will get certain attention. I've watched your career closely because I've been involved you've been a sponsor since the Wolfton Resources, Premier Gold, and I80 Gold. So I've had a ringside seat to your skills in deal making, and I think it means a lot that it's coming from you and your team.
Well, thanks, Al, and look forward to hopefully being on a bit more in the near future, because as you know, we've got the 3 drill programs going right now, not just Ruby Hill. So a lot of news still to come. The Cove Underground program, I think we're on hole 45 or something like that. It's a 120 hole program minimum. So throughout 24, we expect to still be newsworthy. And I just say I'm pretty impressed when I see the assay sheets come through. And in some ways, I expect it to be good. Now it's always okay. What good news did we get this week? So hopefully, it just continue into the new year.
So you and I think it's also important what you talk about is the operatorship. And I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but has that got a lot to do with you wanting to keep control of your destiny?
Yes, because Ruby Hill has gold and base metals, a lot of the interest we had this year and parties wanting to look at the project were actually the base metal group, big base metal companies. And the interest was going after the base metals, not as much on the gold side, but because they sit right beside each other, and if you recall, early in this year's program, we announced a whole, I think it was hole 9 of this year's program. It was an exploration hole, but we hit, I think it was 18 meters of 6.7 zinc with 3.5 grams gold, a really pretty rich gold zone. And from that, it was a little bit of Carlin overprint in the base metals there. That was a pretty big step out in what we believe is an extension of the lower hilltop zone. That's the deepest of the hilltop zones, and we aren't drilling it this year, but we believe it hit a big expansion, a big step out hole in the East Hilltop, and it went straight into Carlin mineralization. So when we were contemplating how do we structure a deal where we keep the gold and maybe another party comes in the base metals, the discussion in a couple instances were what came to, well, how are we going to, who pays for the infrastructure to get over there to mine the base metals and the gold? And it just became evident that it would be really too hard to try to structure something where you separate them. So the gold had to be part of the deal. And as you know, the gold mineralization, we need to start the autoclave. So we don't want to postpone the development of the gold just because we had a partner come in the base metals. And this party was quite open to saying, you know, equal priority. You develop the gold, we'll be a partner in that too. We develop the base metals and we'd be a partner in that, and you guys run it. So we don't have to potentially see, say, when the big boys come in and then they tell you it's, yeah, we'll do both equal, but then maybe change their mind once they're there and then say, you know, we're spending the money or something. You know, when they're operator, they can always and some of the big companies are known to sort of bully the smaller guys. So we just thought that we've got the perfect partner for this type of project. And they've got a great track record of working with other companies in the past, which was a real key component to why we said this is the right party for us to work with. And we're really looking forward to getting everything done and having our friends join us.
You know, as you were talking about the exploration work you're doing, it's reminded me of something my one of my mentors in geology told me, you know, and he said, all projects start like this. And then when you drill them, they go like this. But the mines, they start and they keep getting better and better as you drill because these are prolific systems. And you've got that at McCoy-Cove, at Granite Creek, and at Ruby Hill. And some of those, a couple of those are really amazing projects. It's you got to be, you have a lot of experience in this business. We just don't see this kind of stuff very often, Ewan.
No, you don't, for sure. But we were quite fortunate over, and we started back, I think it was 2012, buying Cove, like getting into the Cove project. So it's been 10 years of work, but we've really been able to acquire what, in my opinion, are next to what Barrick and Newmont in Nevada Gold Mines own. We have the next best portfolio projects, and I'm not even going to say next best because I think some of their mines are getting a little more difficult, and Cove's going to be new and it's going to be really good. I believe we'll find another one at Cove, which will make it even bigger. Granite Creek is the 2 deepest holes we've drilled in the South Pacific zone are the best 2 to date. So the widths, that deposit's completely open for expansion. And here at Ruby Hill, to me, it's just the sky's the limit. It's everywhere we drill, we hit something. And, you know, it's pretty rare to see that. And as I mentioned, if you look at operating skarn mines around the world, which would be what we announced today, the Blackjack Zone, and look at the average grade of, say, Pan American has their skarn underground mine, and Nexa has a couple of underground skarn zinc mines, and look at the grades they're mining and look at what we're releasing. And I would say you'd probably have little doubt that you'd say what I80's drilling off is higher grade than what those guys are mining today.
Wow.
And we're not in what I'd call a more challenging country. We're in Nevada, USA. So I think we're
With
really
the
on to something.
infrastructure, with everything, wow.
Yeah, I believe we're really on to something that could be really special here at Ruby Hill. and the drill bit will tell the truth.
Well, Ewan, I know we're really close on time, but do you got 2 minutes to talk about gold?
Yeah, gold is really performing well right now. Last night up $100, new all-time highs. It sounds like it was some sort of short cover. Somebody got caught
Right.
with their pants down somewhere, and then the algos got on it and sold it down. But here we are, just teetering on all-time highs. And as we were discussing before we got on the show here, it's the narrative. Like, put on CNBC, MSNBC, BNN. Is it like all talk about mining and gold and look at what gold's doing? It's sort of being avoided almost by some of these mainstream media. And that will change. And I think on our last interview, I said, look at uranium a year ago. Nobody wanted to touch it. And now it's one of the hot commodities to be buying in. And gold here is teetering on the right point. When the Fed starts to drop interest rates, we should see all-time highs on a regular basis. And I think 2024 is going to be a stellar year for the gold sector.
Well, when I see these technical milestones get knocked off really rapidly, it's usually a momentum signal. And we had the first close above 2000 at a monthly end at November, first time that ever happened. Then the next day, we had the first close. The highest daily close was the next day. On Sunday, we had it go through and on the futures trade to new record highs. And, this is a momentum thing that's happening for a lot of reasons. And I think it's got a lot of juice to it.
Yeah, me too. And it's the way that the Canada and United States just don't seem to care about debt and how much they tack on for future generations. It's only going to destroy the paper currency. So, they can just keep printing money and devaluing what the dollar will buy,
It's a
and
death, I
gold will
call it
keep.
a death spiral of debt, Ewan. Now, they're putting 2 trillion on, they got 34 trillion in debt. The interest payment is 1 trillion, and it is exceeding the money they spend on defense.
Yeah, in Canada, they're spending as much on servicing the debt as on healthcare. Can you imagine how good our
Oh,
healthcare would be if that money were going into our healthcare system instead of to paying for the debt that they just keep making worse? I don't know. Governments, I don't accuse them always of being the smartest people. Most leaders that you see here in Canada and the United States have zero experience in business. Um, I'm not going to say what they did, but look at our prime minister and minister of finance and look at their pedigree before they became in public office. And you see they don't have much experience when it comes to business and what you do with your dollars. As as a mining company, if you just kept going in debt and debt and debt, there's at a point where a company goes bankrupt. And essentially that's what governments are doing,
totally.
just saying, oh, we'll just raise the debt ceiling. Well, it's nice that you could do that because business can't.
Nope. Ewan, I know you're on a tight time schedule. Thanks a lot. I can't wait to talk to you next time when you have some more drill results. These projects, they just keep on giving and giving, and that's the nature of world-class projects. And you got your hands on a few of them, and we always have lots to talk about.
All right, so I'll hopefully see you in a couple of weeks.
All righty, Ewan. Have a great day. I'm going to close it off.
Okay, take care.
So there you go, folks. I80 Gold, I think I talk about the Lassonde curve a lot, and there's the first wave is when a company has exploration success. And then there's a second wave or a second lull, which is called the development discount window. Then they go through the sweet spot of the development discount window and they start mining. And that's the second wave of the Lassonde curve. But what the Lassonde curve and why I'm working on a Lassonde curve 2.0 is that there is another growth curve or wave beyond the go into production wave. And that is when a company can grow from a small miner into a mid-tier or even onto a major. Can't forget that, you know, at one time, Barrick, it was American Barrick, and they grew from a small miner, a really small company, into the second largest gold miner in the business. And so I'm also interested in that third wave. And you have to ask yourself, well, what do they have the assets to be a potential for that third wave? And Ewan is and has done a great job today of telling us about the three pillars of growth that they have: McCoy-Cove, Granite Creek, and Ruby Hill. And the combination of those three near-term mines will put them in a peer-leading growth profile for production. And these are the elements that, you know, can put companies into that third wave of the Lassonde curve. And so, I think that for any investors out there that are interested in I-80 Gold, they afford a pretty exciting growth profile. And you can learn more about that by going to their website. You can check out their news releases, their corporate presentations. I80 Gold is a sponsor, so Ewan and I have done a lot of interviews together that you can find on YouTube at Rocks and Stocks News, or on my Substack at rocksandstocks.substack.com. I think you'll understand why I get so excited when I talk to Ewan and what he's doing to grow the company. As always, my shows are for information purposes only. I'm not making buying or selling recommendations. I'm not making price projections. It's important for you to know that I80 Gold is a sponsor of my reports. But whether a company is a sponsor or a pick of mine, I use my 30 years of experience in the mining sector as a filter. And every company, picks or sponsors, they all have to go through that same filter. So be aware I'm biased. I'm biased on everything. I'm like every other commentator. There's bias, and when you have an opinion on something, there's a bias. But I try to be very diligent about making sure that my filter is what is giving me the companies to talk about, and then what they do with their drilling and their development is what I talk about on my show. So as always, have a great day, and we will talk to you soon.